It is Monday, March 9th, 2020. I'm your Ella V, and these are the Cryptosphere's top stories for today. Crypto markets deep dive into the red as digital assets prove just as fragile as traditional ones. We're going to speak to the man who's taking on Google on behalf of the crypto community. And later, crypto's ongoing love affair with livestock, not for the sheepish. The crypto markets are seeing red, with the leading assets seeing 9 to 15% falls on the day, in many cases, completely erasing gains made from the beginning of the year. Now, the drops come amid widespread falls in the traditional stock and equity markets in Asia and Europe, and a dramatic drop in the price of oil. To help put it all in perspective, I'm joined in studio by BLOCKTV senior correspondent Usher Westrup-Evans. And Usher, some perspective, how dramatic are these falls? Where are we heading?
Look, in the crypto markets themselves, significant and dramatic falls, much more in line with equities than with the supposed safe haven narrative that has been plugged in Bitcoin for the longest time now. That was the overriding narrative for many in the sphere. If we can see, we can turn to some of the charts we have here. I've got up here where Bitcoin's been moving in the last few hours, and we can see a distinct drop. That line is heading down, but where it gets interesting is when we overlay some of the other markets here. So we've got gold here, which we'll bring in the yellow. Now, gold has seen a slight upward trend after breaking earlier that $1,700 mark. It's pulled back slightly, but there it's still sitting. Right. And then if we bring in Asian markets, which opened earlier today, we've got the Nikkei index here from Japan, and we see that Bitcoin seems to be much more in line with those equity markets than certainly it does with gold. Now, we're taping this before US markets open, but we're already pointing to massive downturns across US markets, which either Bitcoin is probably ahead of, many would argue, or it will even be further exacerbate the falls in crypto markets across the whole. And in fact, we spoke to currency analyst Joel Kruger from the LMAX Group about this earlier today.
It very much holds. There's been nothing that compromises the outlook. Again, when we look at the chart and we see the consolidation that we're seeing, it's important to understand what that consolidation means fundamentally. And when I talk about that, the lower end of that consolidation, let's say just below 6,000 in the 5,700 area, that fundamentally represents an area pre the run-up, right? That run-up that we saw in late 2017, where we saw the market run from about 5,000 up towards 20,000 for that network effect run. That 5,000 to 6,000 area, all very strong, committed players that have been in the market that are looking at this asset, I believe, as for that medium and longer term purpose as this store of value safe haven. And so down towards those levels, you have a very strongly convicted market that's going to be holding on and looking to be taking advantage and increasing exposure around those levels. And so while we hold within this area here, and even if we dip back towards the 5,000 to 6,000 area, I suspect that it's just going to show the strength of this market for those medium to longer term values. And we could then start to see a quick run up through 10,500, through 13,750, where the 2019 high is, and then up into that projected target into the end of the year.
An optimistic point of view, one can argue. And of course, only time will tell. As you said, we're taping this on a Monday before other markets have opened. But when it comes to Bitcoin, not really doing what gold is doing as usually we were hoping to see, can we say that the whole narrative of a safe haven has actually, lost its value throughout this crisis?
We're still early into these market moves. It's only a few weeks since we started to see those mass equity falls across the markets. Whether we can say definitively that the safe haven narrative is dead is hard to say, but it is certain that it's not living up. Bitcoin itself is not living up to this narrative as compared to, say, gold in this current climate. So it really, building as narratives build over time, as fidelity is proven, this one is one strike against Bitcoin in that narrative, but the longer term still needs to play out.
Longer term, time will tell. Usher Westrup-Evans, thank you for this report. Now, taking on Google is no small task, but some Bitcoiners are trying to do just that. A new petition on change.org is calling for the United States to subpoena Google to explain the company's alleged actions against crypto industry members. The petition, promoting the hashtag #ForkGoogle, is a reaction to Google's removal of several crypto apps from Google's Play, pardon me, last month, on the heels, of course, of stopping some crypto YouTubers from posting videos back in December. Now, though those alleged bans have already been reversed by now, the campaign has forged ahead, claiming, and we quote, "We deem these actions anti-market behavior, digital militarism, and informational discrimination. We shall actively engage in community events pursuing the goal of ending Google's pressure on the industry." And of course, that petition is asking for a U.S. Senate subpoena for the behemoth that is Google. We are joined from Thailand by Tony Kaplan. He's the co-founder of Forklog and the man behind the hashtag #ForkGoogle campaign. First of all, Tony, thank you for joining us from Thailand. Because you're in Asia, I can't help but ask to begin with what is on everybody's mind. How is the coronavirus panic going on where you're at?
Okay, thank you. Hello. Thank you for inviting me in the studio. And regarding the coronavirus, the things are not such crazy and bad as it showed in media. Currently in Thailand, several or like let's say most of flights to China and Singapore are declined, but there is no any outside panic. Yeah, you can see some people with these masks, which as we know, absolutely unhelpful in this situation. But from my point of view, situation going better.
Okay. Well, first of all, I hope the rest of the world is listening to you. Back to the petition and Fork Google. To begin with, Google has reversed those bans. Some of them back in the holiday seasons were claimed to be actually, a mistake on the part of Google. Why the petition then?
Because from my point of view, and I hope and I see that a lot of people agree with my point of view, that the point and the problem with Google is not that they have mistakes, like they said, after small public pressure. The problem is that we are still don't have any transparent public policy from this corporation regarding the cryptocurrencies. Moreover, it looks like they're trying to take more and more space from cryptocurrency industry. But we are not a scamming industry. We are not bad stuff. We are not poker players or gambling. We are like adult industry with its own aims and targets. And it's time to not only claim and ask Google to answer on our questions, but also build alternative infrastructures, because everything still relies on TCP, IP, DNS, and so on. And I guess, as you know, governments around the world, not only China, Russia, and Iran, trying to isolate internet and build a closed environment, which is totally controlled by government and elites. This is an ongoing process. Even some EU countries like Germany, for example, blocking website formally because of fight with copyright, piracy, and so on. And what Google do, they just taken off some of your lands and then see how do you react. If you don't react in any way, they will take more and more and more. That's not really a war, but that's a sort of digital militarism, we call it. And just try to imagine then state borders already exist in internet, and that's not a joke. That's our reality already.
Many in the sphere would agree with you. That said, two questions. How many people have signed on? And at the end of the day, I mean, let's be realistic. You're asking for a U.S. Senate subpoena. In times where many would argue that maybe the last thing in the U.S. Senate's mind is the crypto sphere. So how far are you willing to take this?
Yeah, sure. At the moment, we have 286 signs, as I saw just 5 minutes ago, or something like that. But we will have more signs, I guess several thousand of signs. Yes, US Senate may ignore our petition and so on. We don't really believe that US Senate has something to do with that. But we shall trick our, let's say, enemy in any way we can trick him. That's why I think, for example, any peaceful form of protest is important, like an action of capturing symbolic space from antagonists. Moreover, makes sense to set up subdomains on your websites like google.yourwebsite.com just to capture symbol space of your opponent. that symbolism is important in any digital resistance.
Okay. Tony Kaplan joining us from Thailand, looking quite healthy. I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, the crypto community was quick to celebrate last week after India's Supreme Court overturned the Reserve Bank of India's ban on banks that deal with crypto. Pundits believe that the decision would usher in a wave of mass adoption by opening the markets up to almost 2 billion potential investors. Local coins surged and investment pledges rushed in. But the jubilation may have been too early. A pending bill may still inhibit cryptocurrencies from putting down roots with India's parliament, yet to rule on the banning of cryptocurrency, to quote them, and regulation of official digital currency bill. If passed, it may bring enthusiasts back to square one. We had a chance to speak with Ashish Singhal, co-founder of Bangalore-based Crooksbay, who spoke about the quick turnaround in local sentiment.
Obviously, the bill is too drastic, banning all crypto activities, even holding coins, making it illegal. But if you look at the RBI ruling, that's first positive steps in the right direction. And the government also, the government legislatures would learn how Supreme Court and what are the arguments that Supreme Court has put forward for the entire country to see and take notice of that and see where cryptocurrencies can really add value, and not banning it outright, but basically creating a new legislature which helps grow this industry in the right way. And India, being a very big economy, doesn't want to miss out on this crypto evolution.
An IT network engineer has created an interactive pellet feeder that allows users to feed sheep with crypto donations. You may ask yourself, what the fuck? Zaki Hennessy is here to break it down.
I'm here to tell you exactly what the fuck, Yael. So, as you said, Czech engineer Karel Brom, that's with an umlaut over the O, so I'm just guessing on the pronunciation there. But they've essentially established a Twitch live stream that enables viewers to donate cryptocurrency and Twitch bits, which I'll explain in just a moment, in order to feed a flock of real sheep that are owned by the family business. This is called Tangle Sheep, and their pellet converter accepts 50-cent donations of Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, or just plain old Twitch bits, which is Twitch's in-house currency that they've established for streams. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'd love to donate to this, but I just can't stand the idea of donating money to creatures whose names I do not know. Well, congratulations, I prepared for this. Apparently, there are names for these sheep. They are Janet, Kiki, Perdica, Volca. I didn't write it down, so I just kind of read it.
No, is there a Mutty or a Muffy?
Whatever, it's Muffy. They got a Muffy on there. Anyways, so they got a whole bunch of different sheep over there.
Again, it helps you connect.
Yeah, you can really kind of there you go, Jelinka.
Thank you.
That is it. And Paja. Paja is definitely my favorite. He's the one, he's very curious. I was watching the stream earlier. He's always up there sniffing the pellet feeder. He's like, when are they
I have a feeling you think this is the road to mass adoption. But not only that, this is not the first crypto-animal collaboration.
Absolutely correct. This is not the first animal and Bitcoin collaboration, or cryptocurrency collaboration, I should say. In fact, right now, you can go check out Dash Ducks, which utilizes Dashcoin to feed a flock of ducks that are on a farm, just somewhere out there on the internet. And, folks are donating, dropping pellets into a pond. You get to see them all attacking at each other. And so that's pretty fun.
Okay.
And speaking of birds, last year in February, news broke of a chicken-related cryptocurrency food converter live streams. So basically, everybody in the grandma is like, hey, the road to mass adoption, let's give Bitcoin to all these animals and feed them. And you might think, this kind of sounds familiar to me. In fact, one of the earliest stories that I broke here on BLOCKTV is micerace.com, which is now defunct, God rest its soul. But that was, I think, one of my favorite applications, bringing animals and cryptocurrency together. And if you think about it, if you're donating money to that site using Bitcoin, then in essence, you were feeding the mice because you were putting money into the pockets of the care holders.
I just want to stress, because even though I think it was one of the best stories you ever broke, it still looks like child labor. But that said, thank you, Zaki, for that expansive deep dive into animal feeding via crypto. And yay, it's time for Troll of the Day. And to give us that Troll of the Day today is Yona.
Thank you, Yael. Great to be here. Well, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, recently called out Bitcoin on Twitter for being a waste of energy. He tweeted, "Energy consumption for Bitcoin and Ethereum mining is a massive waste, and there's no incentive to take responsibility for the carbon footprint." Absolutely exploding ahead that this isn't high on the agenda for the growing climate crisis. All right, listen, Brad. The biggest issue facing our energy systems today isn't a lack of energy, but rather how to store the surplus that we have during non-peak usage hours. That's why New York Power Plant has started mining Bitcoin themselves rather than let the extra energy go to waste. And maybe you don't understand how Bitcoin mining economics works. What secures the network is the fact that the cost of mining the Bitcoin always is in step with the current value of Bitcoin and reacts accordingly. So the fact that the network consumption is so high only means that the miners are paying for their electricity in step with the expectation to gain value in the Bitcoin they receive. Now, I know this might be a little confusing to you because your XRP doesn't work this way. Your XRP can be printed by the billions on your whim and has no value tying mechanism like Bitcoin. Don't knock it just because it's better than you.
Well trolled, Yona, well trolled. Thank you for that. That was Around the Block for today. Thank you for watching. For more blockchain tech and cryptocurrency news, visit us at blocktv.com.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.